Welcome to Fairy Tales Reborn, where ancient stories awaken and take root in our hearts once more. Some stories begin with hunger, others begin with fear. But Hansel and Gretel begins with both and becomes a tale of extraordinary courage. Long before Hansel and Gretel filled children's books, the story lived in the whispered fears of medieval Europe. It was born in an age when famine reshaped families, forests became survival grounds, and childhood was perilously fragile. During the Great Famine of the 1300s, tales of abandoned children spread across villages like living shadows. Parents who could no longer feed their families faced impossible decisions. Folk tales emerged from this sorrow, reflecting the terror of being lost in the world with no one to guide you home. Illy told of Nenelo and Nenella, siblings cast out by a cruel stepmother. France passed down stories of witches who preyed on wanderers. Slavic traditions spoke of forest spirits who offered food at a terrible price. These threads wove together into what would later become the story we know today. When Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm collected the tale in 1812, it carried the raw edge of those dark centuries. Early drafts were far harsher, more violent, and deeply tied to real historical suffering. Over time, the Grimm softened certain details for families but preserved its chilling core. A tale where innocence encounters danger, where wit becomes survival, and where two children, standing together, find a way out of the darkest forest. Once, near a vast and shadowed forest, lived a poor woodcutter and his two children. Hansel, clever and adventurous. Gretel, gentle and wise beyond her years. A famine swept through the land, thinning grains, emptying cupboards, and filling nights with fear. Their stepmother, hardened by desperation, whispered that the children were too many mouths to feed. The woodcutter resisted, but hopelessness is a powerful persuader. Hansel overheard the plan to abandon them and vowed to protect his sister. Under the moonlight, he gathered smooth white pebbles that glowed like small stars. At dawn, their stepmother led them deep into the forest under the excuse of gathering wood. Hansel dropped the pebbles behind them as they walked. When night fell, the forest swallowed the last trails of sunlight, but the pebbles sparkled on the ground, guiding the children home. Their stepmother raged when she saw them return. She locked the doors and windows so Hansel could not collect stones again. Soon she sent them again into the forest, farther than before. This time Hansel dropped crumbs, his only hope, but the forest birds swept them away before dusk. When night rose, the children were alone. Trees loomed like silent giants, paths twisted into uncertainty. Hansel tried to comfort Gretel, though fear gripped him too. For days, they wandered through rustling leaves, empty pathways, and fading hope. Then, in a sunlit clearing, something extraordinary appeared. A cottage made of sweets, walls glistening with sugar, cookies lining the roof, windows shimmering with hard candy panes. Starving and exhausted, Hansel and Gretel tasted the sugary walls. A soft voice called out to them, warm and welcoming. An old woman stood in the doorway, smiling kindly. She ushered them inside, promising food and rest. But her kindness was a disguise stretched thin over hunger, for she was a witch who lured children with sweetness. That night she seized Hansel, locking him in a cage. Gretel was forced to work, her spirit tested each day. Every morning, the witch demanded Hansel extend a finger so she could judge if he was fattening. Hansel gave her a thin bone instead. Her poor eyesight deceived her again and again. Impatient, the witch decided to end the waiting. She heated the oven, flames rumbling like a hungry beast. She ordered Gretel to climb inside and check the fire. Gretel realized the trap. With trembling resolve, she asked the witch to show her how. The witch leaned forward, gripping the oven door, and in a surge of courage, Gretel pushed her inside and slammed the door. The oven roared shut. Gretel ran to free Hansel, tears streaming as the cage door swung open. They searched the cottage and found chests filled with jewels and coins. Gathering what they could carry, they journeyed back through the forest. The trees no longer felt threatening. Light pierced through where shadows once ruled. When they reached home, their father wept with relief. The stepmother was gone, leaving behind nothing but silence. Hansel and Gretel shared the treasure with their father, transforming their fate forever. And in that small cottage beside the forest, their lives grew peaceful once more. Hansel and Gretel reminds us that even in the darkest places, courage can rise quietly within us. It teaches that preparation and cleverness can save us when hope seems lost. Hansel's pebbles symbolize foresight. Gretel's final act symbolizes the strength that blossoms when we protect the ones we love. The forest represents the unknown struggles each of us must walk through, and the witch embodies temptations that promise comfort but carry danger. The story endures because it reflects a universal truth. Even when the world feels cold and unforgiving, resilience and love can guide us home. Hansel and Gretel remains one of the most reimagined fairy tales in the world. The beloved opera by Engelbert Humperdinck brought the story to life with classical beauty. Modern films like Hansel and Gretel, witch hunters reimagined the siblings as grown warriors. The atmospheric horror film Gretel and Hansel offered a haunting reinterpretation of the tale. Children's books, comic series, plays, and video games continue to reinvent its themes. From dark reimaginings to gentle picture books, its influence spans genres and generations. Its power lies in its timeless blend of fear, ingenuity, danger, and hope. Until the next timeless tale awakens, join us again here in Fairy Tales Reborn.